They're suing me for something I didn't do. It's just the most bullshit thing. And I literally had to pay them a lot of fuck.
Nobody expected this to be the rematch. Not fists, not gloves, not another face-off. This time, it was words, and they hit harder than any punch thrown that night. Because when Mike Tyson finally went off, it wasn't about training camps or respect. It was about control. And suddenly, that fight everyone thought they understood didn't look so clean anymore. For months, fans argued over what they saw in the ring. Was it age? Was it strategy? Was it just entertainment boxing doing what it always does? Then Tyson cracked the door open and said something that made people freeze mid-scroll. He didn't lose because he couldn't win. He lost because, according to him, he had to. That's when the internet snapped to attention. Group chats exploded. Old clips resurfaced. Body language got dissected like it was evidence in a courtroom. Every pulled punch, every hesitation, every moment that once felt off, suddenly looked suspicious. And Jake Paul, the man who built an empire on chaos, was now staring down the most dangerous kind of opponent, not Iron Mike in the ring. Iron Mike with nothing to lose, because when a legend suggests the outcome was decided before the bell rang, that's not trash talk. That's a grenade lobbed straight into the credibility of the entire spectacle. The moment those words left Mike Tyson's mouth, the entire narrative around that fight cracked in half. Not bent, cracked, because fans weren't prepared for regret, reflection, or revisionist history. They were prepared for silence. Legends are supposed to move on quietly, smile for interviews, and let the internet argue on their behalf. Tyson didn't do that. He ripped the curtain just enough to make everyone question what they thought they watched. At first, people tried to rationalize it. They told themselves this was just frustration bubbling up late, a legend unhappy with how things looked, a pride thing, but the tone didn't match that excuse. Tyson didn't sound bitter. He sounded irritated, focused, like someone revisiting a moment they had already dissected in private, and finally decided to speak on publicly. That's when the conspiracy energy started brewing, because fans remembered the fight feeling strange. In real time, the pacing felt off. The aggression didn't match expectations. Moments where Tyson normally would have exploded felt restrained. People brushed it off back then as age, conditioning, or showmanship. But now, those same moments got replayed frame by frame with a different lens. Hesitation started looking like obedience. Strategy started looking like compliance. The internet doesn't forget how to rewind. What made the situation even more volatile was who the accusation pointed toward. Jake Paul doesn't exist in a neutral space. He's built his entire brand on controversy, spectacle, and bending the rules of traditional boxing until they scream. That reputation worked in his favor for years. But the second a legend suggested the outcome wasn't organic, that same reputation became a liability. Fans didn't ask if Tyson was right. They asked how possible it was, because entertainment. Boxing lives in a gray area by design. Contracts, clauses, conditions. Understanding that the end of the product is a show doesn't mean fans are ready to hear that the ending was decided. There's a difference between exhibition and manipulation, and Tyson's words danced dangerously close to that line. Suddenly, everyone became a legal expert. People debated what force really meant. Did it mean pressure, financial obligation, contractual boundaries, or an unspoken understanding that this wasn't supposed to go a certain way? The ambiguity made it worse. If Tyson had been specific, the story might have burned out faster. Instead, the vagueness gave the internet room to run wild. Old interviews resurfaced. Comments Tyson made before the fight were reanalyzed like prophecy. Jokes that once felt harmless now sounded loaded. Fans convinced themselves the signs had been there all along, they just didn't know how to read them yet. Jake Paul's past fights got dragged into the conversation immediately. Every controversial moment, every opponent who didn't look right. Every time people said, something about this feels staged. What used to be dismissed as hate suddenly felt like pattern recognition to some viewers, and that's when the backlash started to swell. Not against Tyson, against the spectacle itself. Because if even a fraction of what Tyson implied was true, it didn't just hurt one fight's credibility. It threatened the entire ecosystem built around influencer boxing. Fans don't mind drama. They don't even mind entertainment. But they hate feeling played. And Tyson's words made a lot of people feel exactly that. Memes exploded, but they weren't playful. They were sarcastic and accusatory. Clips of Tyson pulling punches were paired with captions dripping in disbelief. Side-by-side comparisons flooded timelines. Before and after edits made the restraint look intentional. Whether fair or not, the optics were brutal. Jake Paul's supporters pushed back hard. They argued Tyson was rewriting history because he didn't like how the narrative aged. They pointed out age gaps, fight rules, conditioning differences. They accused fans of refusing to accept a result they didn't want. The defenses were loud, and defensive energy always signals fear. What made things worse was the lack of quo. What made things worse was the lack of quo. And leave with maids lost quo. Long-lasting color may leave / long-lasting. Quo/quo, may/quo. They/quo, may/quo. We/quo, we/quo, may/quo, may/quo, they/ebb, go quo/ads, kick enough, to secant, kun sabai it, they may/quo, but we see you lie sick it grow it sit to sick it, they I sue you I salets, gik it to ka resits it to key, it's it to kick, it's it to kick it to be. Greets those bleed to faceless it coherence to the secret date. Immediate clarity. Tyson didn't drop receipts. Jake didn't instantly dismantle the claim. Instead, there was a pause. A collective inhale where everyone waited to see who would blink first. In internet time, pauses feel like guilt even when they're not. The boxing world chimed in indirectly. Vague posts, comments. Fighters hinting at how exhibitions work without naming names. Promoters suddenly emphasizing entertainment value a little too hard. It all added to the feeling that something uncomfortable was being carefully stepped around. And through all of it, one thing stood out. Tyson didn't walk it back. No clarification. No softening. No, that's not what I meant. He let the statement sit there, heavy and unresolved. That alone gave it power. Because if it was a slip, it would have been cleaned up quickly. If it was exaggeration, it would have been reframed. Silence, in this case, felt intentional. Fans began questioning motivations. Why speak now? Why not right after the fight? The theories ranged from contractual gag orders expiring to personal reflection, finally outweighing obligation. Nobody knew. But everyone had an opinion. The timing made the claim feel strategic instead of emotional. And once people decide, something feels strategic, they stop treating it like drama and start treating it like information. The fight itself became secondary. The real event was the implication. That behind the lights, the hype, and the pay-per-view numbers. The ending might not have been written in sweat, but in ink. By the end of this phase, the conversation had fully shifted. This wasn't about whether Tyson could have won. It was about whether he was ever allowed to try. And that question refused to go away. Because once a legend suggests the outcome was predetermined, the sport doesn't just take a hit. Once the claim escaped the interview cycle and hit the wider Internet, the conversation didn't just grow, it mutated. This wasn't a normal boxing debate anymore. It was a cultural argument about spectacle versus sport, truth versus entertainment, and whether fans had been watching a fight or a performance with gloves. And the moment Tyson's words hit, people stopped rewatching the result and started rewatching the behavior. Memes detonated everywhere, but not the harmless kind. These were sharp, sarcastic, and uncomfortable. Slow-motion clips of Tyson pulling shots were looped endlessly with captions that read like courtroom objections. Fans overlaid dramatic music, zoomed in on footwork, freeze-framed moments that suddenly felt suspicious. The internet turned into a conspiracy editing bay overnight. Reaction channels scrambled. Creators who had confidently defended the fight's legitimacy suddenly hedged their language. Thumbnails changed, titles softened. You could almost hear the backpedaling through the screen. The ones who doubled down looked defensive. The ones who paused looked nervous. Nobody wanted to be on the wrong side of a legend suggesting manipulation. And then the celebrity reactions started quietly. Not direct statements, not bold declarations, subtweets, quotes about entertainment boxing, stories about contracts. Matter. Podcasts suddenly framing the event as a show first, competition second. No names were mentioned, but the timing was too perfect to ignore. When that many people start speaking in riddles at the same time, it's because clarity would be risky. The public outrage split clean down the middle. One side said Tyson was finally telling the truth everyone suspected. They argued the fight always felt off, and this was confirmation, not revelation. The other side accused him of sour grapes, rewriting the past to protect pride. Both sides came armed with clips, opinions, and absolute certainty. Pop culture comparisons went wild. People said this was like finding out your favorite reality show had scripted endings. Others joked it made wrestling look honest by comparison. Someone compared it to watching a magician explain the trick after you paid for the ticket. The humor landed because the disappointment was real. Jake Paul's name became a lightning rod again. And this time, it wasn't just haters swinging. Even neutral fans questioned the optics. His brand thrives on chaos and controversy, but controversy cuts. Both ways, the same spectacle that built his audience now made people suspicious. When you sell unpredictability, you also sell doubt. Jake's supporters argued contracts don't equal control, that exhibitions have rules without being rigged. They pointed to training footage, athletic decline, and age gaps. They accused critics of refusing to accept a result they didn't like. But the louder the defenses got, the more people wondered why they were necessary at all. What really escalated things was the absence of a clean counter-narrative. No detailed breakdown, no document dump, no calm, step-by-step explanation that shut the door on speculation. Just statements circling the idea of entertainment without addressing the word Tyson used, forced. That word sat there like a live wire dot. Fans argued endlessly about what it meant. Forced by money, by contract, by expectation, by understanding. The ambiguity was gasoline, because if Tyson had said pressured, people would have debated feelings. But forced implies boundaries, limits, lines you don't cross. And that implication refused to stay quiet. The boxing community reacted in fragments. Fighters hinted at how exhibitions really work. Promoters emphasized how fans want a show. Analysts danced around legality without touching intent. It felt like everyone was circling the truth without stepping into it. That kind of collective hesitation doesn't calm a storm. It feeds it. Live streams dissected the fight minute by minute. Body language experts suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Armchair analysts claimed they could see restraint in Tyson's eyes. Others said they saw frustration, not obedience. The same footage supported opposite conclusions, which made the debate louder and uglier and then the fatigue set in. Not boredom, but exhaustion. Fans weren't tired of talking about it. They were tired of not knowing where the line was. Was this boxing? Was this theater? Was this something in between that nobody wanted to define because definition would kill? The business model. That question haunted every reaction. The story stopped being about one fight and started being about the future. If a legend could be forced, what does that mean for every other crossover bout? Every influencer matchup? Every spectacle sold as competition? The implications were bigger than Tyson or Jake. They threatened the credibility of an entire lane that made a lot of money by staying blurry. And through all of it, Tyson stayed consistent. He didn't escalate. He didn't backtrack. He didn't clarify in a way that soothed nerves. That consistency made his claim heavier, not lighter. Because people expect chaos when someone exaggerates. They don't expect restraint by the end. Of this phase, the internet wasn't yelling anymore. It was watching, waiting, tracking responses, timing statements, looking for cracks. Outrage had cooled into surveillance, and surveillance lasts longer than anger. The fight was no longer the main event. The question was, and once a question like that enters the culture, it doesn't disappear. It waits for the next moment to resurface louder, sharper, and harder to dismiss. Because the scariest thing Tyson did wasn't accuse anyone by the time the dust began to settle. One thing was clear. This wasn't a scandal that burned, hot and fast. It was the kind that lingered, staining the conversation long after the trending tab moved on. The accusation didn't blow up the sport in one night. It did something quieter and far more dangerous. It rewired how people watched. Fans didn't just rewatch the fight, they rewatched every influencer bout that came before it. Every odd pacing choice, every pulled punch, every moment commentators brushed off as strategy. The suspicion spread like a software update nobody asked for. Once installed, it changed everything. Mike Tyson's words didn't need proof to have impact. They had credibility. Not because he's perfect, not because he's always right, but because when a legend with nothing left to gain suggests restraint wasn't optional, people listened differently. His reputation didn't make the claim true, it made it plausible. And plausibility is enough to shake foundations. Jake Paul's brand took the hit in slow motion. Not an implosion, a recalibration. The same spectacle-first approach that built his empire now invited questions it couldn't easily answer. Was he a disruptor or a director, a showman or a gatekeeper? Fans who once celebrated the chaos began asking whether chaos was covering something more controlled. The aftermath didn't bring lawsuits or public showdowns. It brought hesitation. Invitations slowed. Conversations changed tone. Media coverage leaned into safer language. Promoters emphasized transparency a little too loudly. These weren't admissions, they were adjustments. And adjustments mean pressure exists somewhere behind the scenes. The boxing community felt it too. Fighters who once joked about crossover bouts started sounding cautious. Analysts who praised spectacle added disclaimers. Everyone wanted distance from the word forced. Nobody wanted to explain it. They wanted to avoid it. Avoidance in this business is its own confession. What made the situation heavier was the absence of resolution. There was no definitive rebuttal that shut the door. No clean explanation that restored confidence. Just a shared understanding that lines exist, and some of them aren't visible to the audience. Once fans sense that trust doesn't vanish, it thins. Tyson didn't keep talking. That restraint mattered. He didn't milk the controversy. He didn't posture. He let the implication do the work. In a culture addicted to overexposure, restraint reads as certainty. People expect liars to over-explain. They don't expect them To stop that, the internet's reaction evolved from outrage to accounting. Fans started asking where their money went, what they paid for, what they were promised versus what they received. Entertainment is one thing, illusion is another. The difference matters when tickets cost real money and legends carry real weight. And this is where the consequences truly landed, not in headlines, but in expectation. The next fight like this won't be watched the same way. Every glove touch will be scrutinized. Every slow round will be questioned. Every post-fight smile will be doubted. Once skepticism enters the room, it doesn't leave easily. The spectacle didn't die. It got exposed. And exposed things don't vanish. They adapt. Contracts will get clearer. Language will get safer. Outcomes will get framed more carefully. Not because fans demanded it, but because doubt demands answers. And answers cost control. For Tyson, the moment became a legacy footnote that carried unexpected power. He didn't reclaim a loss, he reframed it. He reminded the world that legends don't just fight opponents, they fight systems. And sometimes the hardest opponent isn't across the ring. It's the agreement you signed before you stepped into it. For Jake Paul, the moment marked a turning point. Not an ending, but a test. Can spectacle survive transparency? Can influence coexist with trust? The next move matters more now than any punch thrown before. Because once doubt exists, every future win has to work twice as hard. The broader culture absorbed the lesson quietly. Fans became sharper. Commentators became cautious. Promoters became careful. Nobody wanted to say the quiet part out loud, but everyone heard it. This wasn't about whether Mike Tyson could still win a fight. It was about whether fans could still believe what they were watching, and belief, once cracked, never fully seals. The claim didn't end the story. It changed. The rules of engagement. From now on, spectacle has to explain itself. Legends don't have to shout to be heard, and silence, when chosen carefully, can hit harder than any knockout, because the real damage wasn't done to one fight. It was done to the illusion that fights like this were ever just about the bell. All right, let's be real. If you stayed until now, this wasn't just boxing drama for you. This was a moment that made you question what you thought you were watching. Not punches, not highlights, but the rules behind the spectacle. Because when a legend hints that the outcome wasn't his to decide, that doesn't just shake one fight. It rattles the whole stage. So go ahead and smash that like button like it sold you a fight and handed you a script. Because the algorithm needs to know this breakdown landed heavy. Drop a comment and tell me where you stand. Was Tyson exposing the truth fans ignored? Or was this frustration boiling over years too late? And be honest, did that fight feel different before he ever said a word? If you're not subscribed yet, you're playing yourself. Fix that. Hit subscribe like you're protecting yourself from the next illusion, because this channel doesn't just recap chaos, we dissect it. When legends speak, when narratives crack, when the internet starts realizing the show might not be what it claims to be, we're already here breaking it down. Turn on notifications so you don't get caught late when the next bomb drops. Because stories like this don't disappear, they evolve. The next crossover fight, the next exhibition, the next spectacle. You're never going to watch it the same way again. And don't get it twisted, this isn't about hate. It's about clarity, about knowing the difference between competition and choreography. About recognizing when silence, restraint, and timing say more than any post-fight interview ever could. So stay sharp, stay skeptical, and stay locked in. Because this is the punch press where boxing myths get questioned, spectacles get exposed. And every punch comes with a backstory you weren't supposed to notice.